Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ricky Taylor, University of Florida, and it's my privilege to say hello to everyone here for the October Society of Agricultural Communication Scholars webinar. Today, the topic is kind of a joint topic. They kind of mesh fairly well together, and so we opted to combine these two areas of mentoring junior faculty and also concerns of new faculty. So I'll be joined by Jacqueline, there goes the mower, and Katie. Jason Ellis was going to join as part of this panel, but he has had a death in his family over the weekend, so he will not be able to be with us this afternoon. As is the practice here during our SACS times, we'll have presentations by those who are going to be providing information to us all, and then time for question and answers and sharing too. And so this is a topic I think is really important for a lot of the people who are on today, specifically, as well as those who we may be mentoring, as well as senior faculty working with junior faculty. So with that as an introduction, I'm going to share my screen here with you all. Give me 1 second to get this started. You think I would be good at this after having done it for a while. And we'll get started. Hold on 1 second. All right, can everybody see my PowerPoint screen? 1 second. Is that a yes? No, yes? Everybody say yes? Thumbs up? All that fun stuff? Good, perfect. Well, again, today's topic is mentoring junior faculty and concerns of new faculty. And so how we're going to do this, and really the goal here is really an open forum. A lot of discussion, I hope, will ensue today about how we mentor those who were considering junior faculty, those within the first 5 years, and also some concerns of things that we're hearing, and we'll share some of that as well. And two of our junior faculty specifically on the panel will be with us as well. So I wanted to kind of start this process by giving a brief overview of where things were and maybe where things are at the state right now. So several years back, myself, Taylor Ruth, and Lisa Lundy conducted a study evaluating agriculture communication faculty members' experiences. I just want to kind of give the overall maybe 30,000 foot view related to the mentoring, some of the questions and answers that we received here. First of all, the institutional approach to faculty mentorship. And of those who responded, more than half of their and I say AgCom affiliated departments because some of them were in departments of ag education, some were in other areas. So those that had AgCom part of it, 57% encourage faculty mentors, but it is not a requirement of those departments. 13% did require a faculty mentor committee. 11% required a faculty mentor, not a committee. And then for 9% of those who responded, faculty mentorship had not been discussed at all in their department. 37 assistant professors answered these questions related to formal and informal mentoring, and how we're defining that is formal mentor relationships are encouraged or required by the department, such as a mentor or a mentor committee, whereas informal mentor relationships are not specifically mandated or required by their department. 54% required a formal mentor relationship. 100% of them said that they received some type of informal mentoring during their first few years there as an assistant professor. Also, in that same in of 37 assistant professors, it was asked, who are those external and internal mentors that you're receiving some type of mentorship from? And as you can see there on that table, almost 58% said that there was a non-agricultural communications faculty member in my home department who mentored them. And so how that was defined is anyone who was in their department who was not an AgCom faculty member. Almost 58% said that's where they were receiving mentoring from. Then 50% said it was an AgCom faculty member at a different university where they were receiving mentorship from. AgCom faculty in my home department, 47%, and through the rest of there that you can see there, including non-ag communications faculty not in my home department, previous doctoral advisor, and others as well. The topics that had been discussed during these meetings, the top two, as you can see, they're tied, was teaching and research, followed by administrative or procedural questions, work-life balance, conflict or problem-solving solutions, and then navigating the promotion and tenure process. Those were the top topics during these mentor and mentee meetings. But overall, one of the biggest barrier that they identified for effective mentoring relationships was, and there's probably no doubt for anyone there, time. Almost 90% said time is a factor, both for them as well as for potential mentors, both external and internal mentors, just didn't have enough time to do it. And then it drops all the way down to 37% for feeling forced to engage in relationships. So time was the big one. So what we've tried to do here in the Society of Agriculture Communication Scholars is try to help to alleviate some of those pressures, some of those issues that were brought out. It's not a perfect process. We see there's an informal process. This started about four years or so ago in an effort to try to pair experienced faculty members with new faculty members from across the country. Because what we were seeing is that a lot of our new faculty were being hired into departments where they may be one or two, maybe just the one faculty member that was dealing with agriculture communications overall. So how can we bring these new faculty in to get some type of mentoring? So that's how our mentor and mentee program began. And again, most of the time, the mentors that they were receiving were not ag communication faculty. And currently, right now, we have 25, and I put there air quotes, new faculty, that's 5 years or less, in the mentee program. That kind of gives you an idea of where we are as a discipline. We have a lot of our faculty who are new to ag communication overall, which I think is tremendous. But it also means we have a responsibility as experienced faculty, senior faculty, to help our junior faculty out as much as possible. So I wanted to share kind of my approach to mentoring, and then Jason also has a slide after this one about his approach, and then some of the things that I've been hearing during my mentor times, as well as some other anecdotal discussions that we've had as well. So when I reach out to someone potentially as a mentor, I would like to try to establish the purpose and the goal. So in essence, what does the mentor and the mentee want from the relationship? It could be more or less a tenure and promotion. It could be, how did you do this? Help me to navigate things. But establishing those parameters overall, I think is very helpful, so that both parties know what to kind of expect or to hope for in this relationship. I also say being willing to mentor outside of regular mentor times. What in the world does Ricky mean there? Well, usually we have some type of committee meeting, some type of get together in a formal time frame for those that have a mentor committee. But I would say probably the best times that I've found mentoring someone is outside of those specified time frames, setting up a coffee time, or just popping in and say, hey, what's going on and how can I help? So anytime outside of formal mentoring times. Also looking beyond the whole tenure promotion process. Yes, that is extremely important. I'm not trying to downplay that at all. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of the times we have these mentors and mentor committee, and that is the only purpose that they have, is how do you navigate tenure promotion? Again, very important. But I think that there's more to mentoring than that. And so helping to identify those opportunities beyond tenure promotion that can assist you as an assistant professor, I think is important for us as senior professors as well. Being an advocate for your mentee, helping that person to understand when to say yes and when to say no. And for those who have been my mentor, I have no problem saying, are you sure about that? Is that really going to help at this stage in your career? And being honest with your mentee. And most importantly, I think there is just to listen. People are wanting someone to hear what they have to say, their concerns overall, and I try to really listen when someone has something that they would like to share with me. For Jason, he said his approach to mentoring really varies by relationship. Those that are on campus, and he also has several off-campus or national mentees as part of the SACS program. Again, similar to mine, address what those needs are first, to highlight some of those down the road things, not just right in the now, but also maybe a year or two down the road, identifying what those long-term goals and plans are. And like I said, being an advocate, he said here, being more of a matchmaker or a door opener, being that person to help try to open up doors. And I've seen that happen as well. When you've been around for a while, know people who the junior faculty should know, and trying to make those connections early on. And as Jason says here, mentor the whole person, not just the faculty member. What we do here is important, but it's not all that we are. We're parents, we're spouses, we have our different responsibilities within our community. So trying to help people make that balance overall, not just within the 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 timeframe that we're here on campus. Lastly, before I turn it over to Katie and Jacqueline, again, some of the things that I'm hearing, and these are questions that we may be coming back to as we open it up for questions a little bit later on, is the idea of people feeling isolated, especially those who are in this one-person ag communication program. Who do I turn to for help? I've heard time and again this idea of imposter syndrome. Do I really know enough to do this at this level? And I think some of that's being driven by that third point, the COVID years. Again, hearing from several people who may have been hired on during the COVID times, of those 2 years where everything teaching and research was online. You didn't see another person other than on Zoom like this. And how does that affect our junior faculty who are still dealing with those COVID years? And then finally, those who are receiving understandable or understanding mentoring, again, this idea that they're being provided some aspect of emotional support, understanding what is normal now during especially these recent difficult times where we were isolated from each other, providing great ideas for teaching, research, and service. And I think one of the major points here is providing the faculty member with a sense of greater confidence that, yes, I can do this because you're helping me out as a mentor. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to, it says here, new faculty perspectives. And I think, Katie, you're the first one up. I'll go ahead and you can help direct me with the slides as well.
Great. Well, I'm excited to talk today. I'm about 7.5 months into my new position at NC State University, and my AgCom experience so far is one of flying solo. So I am the newest hire in our department at NC State. I'm the only communication faculty member in the department, as well as within the college. And so I kind of act as this central hub for communication. At first, that was pretty overwhelming because, like Dr. Telg mentioned, the imposter syndrome was pretty strong. One, I'm new faculty. I'm dealing with how do I become new faculty, transitioning from a doctoral program, but two, being the only person doing AgCom was a pretty big task. I'm really excited about it. There's a lot of creativity, a lot of flexibility, a lot of visioning, but there are those questions in the back of your mind of, am I doing this right? And so I think my first month at least was just me trying to find mentors, trying to talk to folks. And so I kind of engage in mentoring I engage in receiving mentoring a couple of different ways. My department is one of those that strongly encourages a mentoring committee. And the way that we construct those are 2 internal to the department and 1 external to the department. So for me, being the only AgCom faculty, my mentors are extension education folks, because I have a predominant extension appointment. I'm about 55% extension. And so the way that I selected my mentoring committee was somebody who has a lot of experience in undergraduate programs, because I'm developing what will hopefully be a new AgCom minor. And so I selected that person to help me really understand that undergraduate process, the degree planning, which was totally new to me coming in. And then how do I launch a brand new extension program? Because that's really what I am tasked with in my first 3 years. And so I invited somebody on my committee who has done the same thing, but she's done it within local food. So not a communication focus, but she has that university and extension experience. And so then for my external person, I actually turned to somebody in the Department of Communication. I'm pretty lucky because we have a really good relationship with our Department of Communication. We have shared affiliate faculty status, we have shared classes. So that's been a really generative relationship. So I've been able to get some of that communication experience, but again, it's not AgCom. So it's kind of like this group of folks who all do really great things. But I intentionally selected them because of my position. My department head is also a very great mentor. He invites us there's 4 new faculty in our department, and I'm the only comms one. Other folks are nutrition. And so he invites us for a once a month faculty mentoring lunch where we can just ask any questions, which has really been a good time just to kind of get out those random questions that you don't feel like putting in an email. Maybe they don't seem important enough to draft in your inbox, but just time to ask those questions. And I remember last week I was asking about student evaluations. What does that mean in the tenure process? How scared should I be for those first year evaluations? And he helped calm me a little bit. Other ways that I have sought out mentors, both formally and mostly informally, has been through coffee. My first month, I reached out just to a ton of folks, especially within the university, trying to get my head around NC State, what's going on, what's happening in the college, and what are those needs? What are people already doing? And so I would just ask folks to coffee or to lunch, and I learned a lot and really gained a lot of great collaborators there. So in addition to official mentors, I have a lot of collaborators who are more senior than I am, who have been able to offer a lot of good mentoring capacity. I'm also in the SACS mentee program. That's something that I reached out very early on, again, dealing with what do I do? This is such a huge undertaking. It's exciting, but I'm not really sure where to start. So the SACS mentor program was really helpful for me, just kind of getting oriented. And then the last thing I did was just doing some cold emails. So that has really me trying to figure out how am I going to teach these classes? What do I need to do? Not just with people inside the university, but people inside our discipline as well. And so on the next page, I kind of talk about how have I established these mentors. A lot of it at first was how do I balance my vision? What do I want for my new position? This really exciting but kind of ambiguous food systems communication title that I received. What does that mean? What do we need? What does the college need? What does the department need? And so I really started to balance what is my vision with what are those needs, and helped identify mentors that help me could fill in those gaps. I would say when Dr. Telg mentioned time was one of the biggest barriers for mentoring and being a mentee. Having that time is definitely the biggest barrier. So the hardest to keep up is just asking for time on their schedule. I feel like with my department head, having the monthly lunches has been really nice because it's a time on my calendar. I know it's there. And so with these formal mentorship processes, it's been really helpful for me as a new faculty because I know that space is there. I don't have to send a cold email, necessarily ask somebody for very, very valuable time on their calendar. So those formal spaces are really helpful for me to check in because I know they're coming. And when I get busy and when everybody else gets busy, it's on both of our calendars. And as far as mentor content, I'm always, of course, asking about tenure and promotion. What are you looking for, especially having a predominant extension appointment? I had to ask a lot of questions about what does that look like in practice and what does that actually mean for someone building a brand new program? And then also, how do I balance extension, teaching, and research? And so I have a 55% extension appointment, 45 or 40% teaching. And so where does research, how do I thread that needle through everything that I'm doing? And what does my time need to look like if I'm accurately going to receive tenure and promotion with these different allocations of time? And so on the next slide, I kind of talk about how did I think about different mentors and how did I strategically develop these networks within my position as a singular AgCom faculty at NC State. And so I have my internal folks within my department kind of asking, what do you want from me? What's your vision for this role? Again, balancing my wants with the needs of the college and the department. And a lot of it I've received is, hey, we hired you, you do what you want, this is great, which has been really exciting. But also some of those logistical questions have really been what's coming from the department, as well as what does it mean for us to be extension specialists in this department, and what kind of programs do we need to develop? And then at the university level, I kind of call this my internal external. And so this is folks at NC State, in my college and within the Department of Communication, asking, what do they do? How can I complement? We actually have a lot of great communicators across campus in different departments, but maybe not in the College of Ag. And so I was trying to see, what are they doing? What are they doing well? How can I complement them so that I'm not duplicating anything? Because that's one thing I said is, I don't want to duplicate any of the amazing work already going on. And I always asked, can you give me intel? What is the communications landscape looking like? What are people needing from the few folks who are doing communication adjacent work? What's that process been like? Where's the need? And really, where are those opportunities for me to expand my presence as a new faculty? And then the external questions, those are the folks within our discipline, but not in my university. And that includes my previous advisors and mentors from the University of Georgia, University of Arkansas, as well as other AgCom faculty, a couple on this call. I actually cold emailed and they Zoomed with me as I'm trying to develop these intro classes. I asked, how did you do it? What was your experience like as new faculty? What do you know now that you didn't know then? Did you feel like an imposter? How did you deal? A lot of these questions that kind of bridge that personal and professional tie that we mentioned earlier. So those are kind of my strategies as a new faculty looking for mentorship. And I'll hand it over to Jacqueline now.
Okay, thank you, Katie and Dr. Telg. I'll keep this somewhat short. Same thing. We wanted to kind of in contrast to Katie, I'm in a department that's somewhat established. I'm one of 4 AgCom faculty members. So definitely want to show kind of like two sides of the coin, right? Different kind of programs we're entering. So I'm currently at Kansas State University Department of Communications and Agricultural Education. So again, we have 7 or 8 total faculty. Our department head is actually AgCom, which I know is actually like sometimes uncommon, right? So that was thinking of like my journey somewhat. I think this is kind of important to note just for the people on this call that are ever in hiring positions, right? The level of mentorship and professional development was one of the selling points for when I was, and I know there's also grad students on this call, right, who are either on the job market or coming on the job market. I knew that when I looked at the options of positions that I was like lucky enough to be offered, there were positions that were like the solo brand new AgCom faculty member. And I had that imposter syndrome of, I don't know where I would begin or the paperwork. And I really valued having a department that would have not only mentorship from other faculty who are in AgCom and a standing program with a reputation surrounded by other schools that had AgCom. It definitely puts me in a different position, or it felt advantageous. They also have, we'll talk about in a second here, year-long new faculty professional development programs. So that's important from like a development standpoint, from when you're at your position, and just something to keep in mind as you're like interviewing or on the job market. So again, having an established program with colleagues means that I had people that I could immediately, luckily, they're all great. They're fantastic people. I'm not paid to say that. They just genuinely are. So I can do a lot of that informal mentorship of Dr. Tell mentioned his philosophy of having that like almost like open door policy or mentorship outside of mentoring time. That's something I have, and I know I'm very lucky to have that. So this applies with teaching, right? You kind of know you're going to want some like advice of working with students or other people that I taught this class with research, right? Like you're coming in, of course, you're publishing off your dissertation or projects that carried over from grad school, but are there new ones I can get involved with and like keep learning? Advising, that wasn't something that I got any training on in grad school. Maybe other grad programs did, right? I think Katie mentioned like student assessments, student evaluations, feedback, all these things that maybe you didn't realize were going to be a big part of your job. You now have this network of people you can naturally ask. So thinking on the formal side, our department does not require a formal like internal mentorship committee. But when I met with my department chair, which for those who don't know, is Jason Ellis, who had his previous slide. So you kind of get to see the two. I am his mentee. So funny to like show both sides of that coin too. So when I came in, I had routine meetings with my department head. We met bi-weekly. I think we started off weekly and then we met bi-weekly through my first year. And then early on in those meetings, he said, what areas do you need mentorship in? And I'm going to give you like 3 names of people for you to contact, which of course begs the question of, do I know what I don't know? Right? On month 1, where you're still figuring out, I got texts now. I'll talk about it in a second, of the common challenges. I think I'm in my 2nd year now here, and I have people asking me, what did you do on your first day of work? Because these are the questions, this is what we're worried about as brand new faculty, right? Do I bring my stuff with me? Should I be decorating on day 1? Those are the important questions we're trying to answer week 1 on the job. So when you sit down and you're asked, what do you need mentorship wise? It's a little hard, but I did have someone that was ready to, again, they gave me names of people like I wanted to work with qualitative methods. I was feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome, right? I have a 35% research appointment. I want to make sure I can like satisfy those publications because we know that's what's most important. And they paired me with people across the university, across other departments. In addition to that, I am in the SACS mentor mentee program, which has been great. Which again is, you know, my relationship with my mentor through this is a little bit more informal. We do meet or try to meet monthly. And again, I think when you go to some of these like mentorship workshops, right, there can be a very structured flow, right? Some professional developments, you have this email template, you make a contract or agreement of the exact things you'll accomplish or the purpose behind this meeting. That hasn't been my experience thus far, though it's an option, right? Another way of finding mentors has been through just different departments like leadership, right? We have some relationships with our school leadership. We work with communication studies. And then lastly, I mentioned that new faculty professional development. So at K-State, we had a year-long program. So every faculty member in the College of Ag that was hired on is in New Faculty Institute, which has 2 or 3 events per month for your entire first year. And then we have a research-focused one that meets once a month and answered questions on what are hatch projects, because I get calls just last week from a friend who's a new faculty, who is the only faculty in a, you know, different department that is not Ag Comm and Ag Ed. And they said, hey, I was told I need a hatch project. I've never heard this word before, right? Who do I ask? Luckily, they can ask me. Apparently there's some content knowledge I have. I don't feel like it, right? Year 2, but so that was a great chance to like have this very formal structure of learning about these things. Talking about common challenges I've heard from people in my cohort. I love that when Ricky was doing kind of the intro to this, new faculty is people within their first 5 years, which to my ear, I'm like, gosh, someone in year 5 is like the expert, right? Feels like they have so much more to share with me. But thinking of things we talk about, building community, right? A lot of people are coming to this new state, new community, especially if you're the only person in your program, right? You're the only one in your discipline. Like, how can we have a mentor? What kind of program can we do to help build community? I mentioned grants and developing programs or research programs. So again, maybe in your graduate studies, you had experience with grants. I personally did not. And then you come on the job and you realize that apparently that's kind of important, and you're expected to find funding. When your startup runs out, you have to find your own, I guess. And grant writing is very different than the academic writing you did for the last 3 to 5 years in grad school. So lots of questions about that. So finding, getting pointed to different like workshops. So I know here we have our extension services offer 2 grant writing workshops. I know Nebraska offers a grant writing workshop, I think over a weekend. So finding resources for that has been really big too. And then finding people, I think Dr. Telg mentioned, he's very willing to help, maybe not say no for you, but ask you if you really want to do X, Y, Z things, right? And I see that a lot. I'm very fortunate. I'm a yes person, so I need a lot of feedback from people like that, right, to help. And I've definitely seen some new faculty that don't have that, right? So you're in your first month, your first semester, and you're now leading a search committee, and you're the head of this USDA NIFA grant, and you're expected to lead this seminar series. And I start to wonder, like, who is here to help you say no, right? Who is here to help you or help you be able to be successful in some of these things, right? So I think that's where different kinds of mentors will come in. and advocate for you. So I know I had 10 other things I wanted to talk about, but we're going to keep moving through. So we're right now, another mentorship opportunity that maybe some of you have been involved with is through the National Center for Faculty Diversity and Development, their Faculty Success Program. It's both a professional development program and kind of a retention program. I can't remember the precise cost of it, but it does have a moderate fee associated with participating in it. So this is an opportunity if you are junior faculty to use some of your startup funds or talk with people in your department at your college to see if they will at least partially cover the cost of participating in this. But it's not just for junior faculty, it's pretty much faculty at any stage of their career, right? We all need different kinds of mentorship, and it really helps with, we talk about things like resiliency, workflow, being effective in creating time for your research, because if we don't have time for research, we might not have time for mentorship, and we barely have time for ourselves sometimes, right? So this is a great program. And this actually 2 weeks ago, we were talking about mentorships and mentoring maps. So this is something I wanted to, it's their idea. I'm not stealing it, but I wanted to bring it into this conversation and see kind of what it means for us. So they talk about making your mentor map. And if you could go to the next slide, I think it should have a list of some categories. Perfect. So they had us do this exercise where they broke it down into these categories of types of mentors you might engage with and start thinking of what categories, like who fills what spot for you. So looking through the list, things like professional development would be obviously opportunities to try something new, build a new skill. So this could be those grant writing workshops, things like that. Emotional support, having safe spaces or colleagues. This could be someone outside of your department. It could be someone from your community, a social safe space for when things like your imposter syndrome flares up and you have someone that can provide that additional support or reassurance. Intellectual community, this is people you can brainstorm with, right? As we're building our research programs or trying to come up with, refine a grant proposal, who can serve in that area. Role models, of course, these are people, again, at any phase of your career, as you look to these next steps, or if you look for people that are culturally congruent with where you're, with the space you're working in, who could you pair with to ask questions for your own success? Accountability, right? This is kind of a larger category, both professionally and personally, right? Who have you shared your like goals with, right? Especially even the ones that are a little bit more personal or you're more private about, who can you share those with? Who can help keep you in check, right? Of making sure you're moving in the right direction and things are aligning. Sponsorship. This is, I can't remember which of the slides I mentioned, but someone who will advocate for you when you're not in the room. Someone who's willing to speak out about your expertise or recommend you for projects. Similar to access to opportunity, again, who can help pair you with the opportunities across campus or across the discipline that will help you. And lastly, substantive feedback. So when I heard this one, it was interesting to think about. So this is talking about who edits your paper. Who are you willing to send the roughest of rough drafts of that research article that you're almost embarrassed to share? Who do you send that to, right? We send it to our authors, but this is talking about something outside of that, right? We're not talking about your co-authors. Who do you feel comfortable having read your writing or teaching? So who can you invite into your classroom to watch you and give you kind feedback, right? I think this, when I first heard this, I'm like, wow, right now, no one, right? Outside of your author team, I'm not really sharing my work with anyone else. I think the other thing that comes up is feeling of taking up too much of someone's time, right? If they're not on my author team, they're not getting a publication out of this. Why would they spend 30 minutes to an hour of their day to like edit my writing or give me feedback, right? And this points to like a larger issue of it can almost feel transactional when we're looking for mentors in that informal space of I'm taking so much from them. I'm popping up in their office. I have 10,000 questions because I'm a baby faculty member and it's pretty much all new and it feels very one-sided. So something that came up for me was how can, if it is, it shouldn't be transactional, but if it is, what can I provide that makes it feel more even, right? Because there is something, right? And it plays into that imposter syndrome. of we do have something to provide back, right? So maybe your mentor, of course, is providing this more long-term perspective, but maybe you can help on their papers. Maybe you also do the same for them and provide brainstorm or editing. Maybe you get speak in their class, right? How can we find ways to, one, help our own confidence and fight that imposter syndrome, and two, make it a mutually beneficial relationship so that we can both prioritize spending time on it. Okay, so that was a lot. We do have an activity to do. This is my first time using Mentimeter, so bear with me. I think hopefully that QR code works. I'm also going to share a link in the chat just in case. So I think I'm going to share my screen now, if that's okay, Dr. Telg, so we can pull up the results of these polls, assuming it works. So let me press this and then share. Let's see. Okay. Are you seeing a question? Great, we're seeing it. So the first question is, in which two areas of your mentor network could you use more support? So we just briefly went over them. So which two areas do you think you should be adding more people to? Okay. Okay. We're still seeing some movement on the board, so I'll give it another few seconds. So again, as we think about this, something else to consider as you're thinking about the people that fill those categories for you, there might be the same person that shows up multiple times, right? You could say, I have this colleague or my SACS mentor mentors me in 5 of these categories, which can be great, but we also want to think about where we can spread it out, right? So we don't do too much mental load on one person. So what I'm seeing so far, we see the highest ranking one is intellectual community, so people to brainstorm with. I think that's really interesting, right? Because we do hopefully have people in our network, maybe through meetings like SACS or whatnot. So how can we reach out to some of these people that could serve in that role? Looking to access to opportunities and accountability. Absolutely. Absolutely. Lastly, there we go. Substantive feedback. I'm the same. Again, I think that's definitely an area that I need to focus on as well. Safe space, so important, again, for both professional and personal development, right? When we think of like longevity in our careers, right? Having those individuals to kind of help moderate professional development and emotional support. It sounds like, according to this, we got a lot of good role models that we're in connection with. I take that as a positive. And a lot of people, hopefully, feel like you have a lot of sponsors, people that might speak for you or advocate for you when you're not in the room, which I think is a great takeaway. Okay, so next slide. Hopefully it progresses for you. Let me know if this works. In a word or a short phrase, what do you think will be the most challenging for you when you try to fill those roles? So we identify the top 2 areas we think we need more mentorship in. And as you think of finding people or requesting people to serve in those roles, what's the biggest challenge? Time. Absolutely. We identified that earlier, right? Time always seems to be the challenge. Not being a burden. I'm assuming this might tie to the mentor's workload. Wow, we got a lot. Finding mutual time slots, being vulnerable to ask. Absolutely. Absolutely. How to make the ask, right? How to ask for help. Yeah. Feeling comfortable, knowing who to ask, mentor's workload, reaching out, following through, right? We might send the initial email. We both say, yes, we could do this. What comes next, right? How do we make sure it actually happens? Okay. Limited mentor pool. Absolutely. I feel like that might be really relevant too when we think of like AdCom specific, some of these slots that would be AdCom specific personnel. We know we're somewhat, medium discipline, depends on how you see, right? Small to medium discipline in the grand scheme of things. So are we asking the same exact handful of people, right? That's a good point. Good point. Okay. I'm seeing some trends here for sure. And hopefully, if nothing else, this shows you too that you're not the only one maybe like concerned or challenged by these pieces. And maybe this is a space, this is a group of people that we could brainstorm more together with the remaining time that we have to talk through some of these challenges. That's all I have for now. So I'll turn it back over to Ricky.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Jacqueline. So we have time to talk. Like I said, this is more of a kind of an open discussion on some of the things that you may be seeing or experiencing too, and ways that we may be able to develop some ways to assist our new faculty. So any questions, comments, thoughts, experiences? So for those of you who are new faculty, did any of the things that were discussed resonate with you? And if so, what?
Yeah, it was great to hear about I guess some of the departmental meetings that y'all are having as new faculty. We don't really have that here. So to know that it exists is and that it's possible helps me, I guess, make the ask of like, hey, I heard that this is a possibility, and I can go to my department head who is wonderful, but maybe didn't know that that was some support that we needed as younger faculty. So that was really cool to hear that others do that. So inspired me to make an ask.
Great. Thanks, Lacey. Anyone else?
I like the idea of what Katie was saying, how they have a mentoring system in place of like within the department, outside, like that they highly encourage. So I like that idea of just trying to find that within my own college and area. I think that would be a really nice way to get a few people's perspectives on issues and how things are working. And because I think that's a lot of it is getting that landscape and the lay of the land, like who's already doing what. Like I feel like I've spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. And so that's a really good way to do that. And then I second the program that Jacqueline talked about. I did it last year. It was really amazing. And I think doing it like not in your first months in a job would be great, but more like maybe your second semester or a couple of quarters in, because you can really use some tools from that more, I think, efficiently, or I don't know, but yeah.
Great. Thank you. Anything? Go ahead, Avery.
Oh, sure. I think all of this is a good reminder. One of the things I realized is I'm no longer the mentee and that I am now the mentor, just because of our department and how it's changed so much. And so I really appreciated hearing a lot of perspectives, because I remember being in those first 2 years. And I remember the overwhelmingness, but also the fear of saying no to something, because we don't like to think this, but we're so scared of what people think. And maybe I'm not doing enough. I don't think that measuring stick will ever be there of are we doing enough or not. So yeah, I just really appreciated y'all's perspective, because it did kind of wake me up right now of you are no longer the mentee. And we are hoping, knock on wood, to hire at least 3 new faculty members this year. And with that, they'll be looking for mentors.
Right.
And that we know what we're doing.
Well, that's hardly ever the case for mentors knowing what they're doing.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
right. Yeah.
Well, and Ricky might agree with me or not, but Avery, I'd say I'm still the mentee in some situations. Like as my role evolves and as the responsibilities change, there's things that I haven't navigated before. So I guess I would tell everybody who's just starting on that journey that it's never ending and that we should continue. But Avery, like you, I've had to kind of at some point I looked around and go, oh no, I'm the old one here. Like I'm the one with the most years in the room. When did that happen?
Mhm.
And to everyone's point about saying no to stuff, I struggle with this because we need to do things, right? You have expectations. You need to do things if you want to get tenured and promoted. I think the point is helping identify and be proactive about saying yes to
Mhm.
the things that really matter to you and that fill your bucket, for lack of a better phrase. That way, when someone comes to you with something that isn't going to get your full attention, your full heart, you can be honest about that and say, you know what, when I evaluate everything else that I have, this just isn't something I can add to my plate right now. But you know who could? I'd like you to reach out to so and so. So I've found it's much easier to say no to something if I can help that person identify. And it's the curse of competence. The more things you do well, the more things you're asked to do. So if you can help other people find those other folks who maybe just haven't had the opportunity to lead, haven't had the opportunity to serve, that will help. And again, that's on me as someone who's been in the profession a little bit longer. If I recommend you for a role, it's not because I don't want to do it. It may be that I don't have time to do it right now, but it might be a chance for you to grow and get something out of it. And I'm not talking about just you on the phone or the call. I'm talking about in general.
Great points. Thanks, Courtney. Jacqueline?
I just wanted to kind of jump off that. I love that what she said about like passing on an opportunity, right? Like sharing these opportunities. That's something that as a new faculty member has been instrumental, right? Like when you're like, where do I find grants? Well, some people, again, they're at capacity, but they say, you know what? I know that Jacqueline works in this area. Let's ask her. And I know that that's, again, something that gets to this, like, but what happens when you're in a smaller department, when there's not another AgCom faculty to kind of pass along these opportunities. But I think that's where it comes into Katie's point of like making sure people know who you are and what you do so that they can think of you. And if it's, again, this call, and SACS is a great resource too, of like if it's a broader opportunity beyond just your institution, of like us understanding each other's discipline and being able to pass it along, it's very collegial, right? When it comes to having good relationships with people in your department, in your college, and in our profession, which again is part of tenure and promotion, right? Having a collegial aspect. Not that it's all about that, but I just love that point. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any takeaways from today that you say, you know, I hadn't thought about that. We've heard some already that you might want to implement, whether you're as a mentee or a mentor.
I think the point about, it's such a simple thing, but the point about scheduling a lunch, like how it's very hard to be spontaneous at my stage and with where my own children are. Like there's days that I just have to leave. I have a hard stop. But if I schedule it in and we plan on it, then we can do that. And so I guess that's an easy thing that we could all try to do, either to ask for that time, because we all need to eat at some point during the day. We all need to have a coffee. So I think that that's one thing that I need to take away from this, is being more intentional in scheduling that time.
Point. All right. I think that's all the comments. Thank you all very much. Is there any other, during this time, we usually try to have any updates? Any other things you might want to talk about with the group, either related to the topic today or anything else you want to share?
Yes, I actually do have something. Thank you all first and foremost for this really awesome discourse. I was really excited. Also, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Maddie Diamond, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Florida. But I was really excited to hear that this was the topic for this month's SACS webinar, because for my upcoming dissertation, I'm actually going to be focusing on mentorship elements for new AgCom faculty members. And so I thought that this would actually be a really excellent opportunity, since I know that there are quite a few new AgCom faculty members, specifically those who are working with some form of curriculum development, who are going to be on this call, and even more faculty members who maybe would know others who would fit that criteria. to kind of pitch this as a potential call for recruitment for my dissertation. So Dr. Telg, I hope it's okay that I've kind of commandeered this, but
Sure, that's fine.
but I do have actually some materials to share. If anybody is interested in either participating in this study or maybe passing this along, I'll go ahead and I'll drop this document in the chat. But essentially what we're looking for, as I had said, is just these new A&R communication faculty members, particularly if they are involved in some form of curriculum development. I'm not super picky. It can be anywhere from starting up just a new course or trying to institute a minor or a major. Any form of curriculum development would be great. But what I'm really wanting to look at is kind of the realities of their experiences, both as a new faculty member within their first 5 years in their position, and also their experiences with curriculum development. And then I want to get the other perspective from their mentors, from the people who are working with them and trying to guide them through this process to really understand the ins and outs of this experience. And then also, I'm hoping, oh, sorry, I actually had sent this to Dr. Telg and not to everyone. My apologies. But then there's an additional element where I'm wanting to look also at identity as new faculty members and how we're maybe seeing ourselves and how that can be impacting the way that we navigate these situations in these new positions. So that was just kind of a brief spiel. I don't really want to take up anyone else's time entirely, but if any of you are interested in this or maybe would know someone who's interested, please feel free to pass this information along and to email me. I'll also drop my email in the chat as well. And I would love to hear from anyone.
Great. Thank you, Maddie.
I have one thing before we leave.
Sure, Whitney, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. We will soon have a job posting coming up at Oregon State University for a 9-month tenure track in Ag Comm. So if you have any students or have any questions, that posting will come soon. So just send them my way. I will be chairing that committee. So we're really excited. And so, yeah, that'll be coming on the pipeline.
Great. Thank you, Whitney.
And I make a quick announcement about NACS. So thank you to everybody who submitted this year. So all of the posters, papers, and professional developments have been submitted. Most of you on this call in a faculty position will have already received a request from Audrey or will be receiving a request from me to be reviewing poster abstracts. So please keep an eye out for those emails and let us know, especially quickly if you are unable to complete those reviews. You've got about a month to finish those. I think it's around the week of Thanksgiving that both of those reviews are due. So if you did submit to NACS, we were hoping to get those out around the first week of December, so that way you can start planning. We're very excited for Atlanta. I think Ricky has already posted. Have we made the Eventbrite page public yet?
It is public, yes, but we haven't distributed the link to it yet. No.
But we'll be able to distribute that link pretty soon. The prices will be the same as last year, which was pretty affordable for everybody. I think it was $175 for faculty and then $75 for students. So prices haven't changed. We hope to see y'all there, but I just wanted to let everybody know that those reviews are being sent out right now, and let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Thank you for that, Taylor.
Just a quick reminder that we will have a position posting out soon. Dr. Dorfer will be retiring in May, and we've had approval to hire for that. It will have at least a 50% research appointment. It's a big R, little t position. And I'll be on the search committee. Dr. Gibson will be the chair. And as soon as we get the position announcement approved, we'll be passing that around. So happy to visit with anyone more about that, or if you have any grad students finishing soon, please have them reach out.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we still at UF have a 12-month non-tenure track lecturer position. Also, it was Kevin Kent's position, so that still is open. So if anyone knows of anyone who would like to fill that position, we are looking for great qualified candidates at this point as well. All right, with that, I wanted to mention that November 27th is our next SACS webinar. Laura Fisher and Lacey Roberts Hill will talk about creating collaborative multi-state partnerships. And that's a great topic as we're looking at, I'm sure, teaching and research and all other areas too, and extension as well. The idea of building these partnerships beyond state boundaries. Again, thank you all very much for joining us today. Thanks specifically to Katie and Jacqueline for participating as panelists today. If you're interested in helping out with Maddie with her dissertation research, please reach out to her as well. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great one. Bye.